So when they're looking for keynote speakers, the search got a little more narrow and a little more narrow, and I kept suggesting people because I did not want to do it. And then at one meeting, I think Mark Mischke was pointing across the table at me, and I had made the mistake of reading a book that had a cartoon in it that reminded me that I had everything that I needed, and I hated it. I had an idea for a session, I had all the tools I needed, I had experience working with you guys, and I hated the fact that I had everything I needed. Having what you need sometimes is a horrible feeling. Reward people for fitting in. And people who have learned to stand outside the lines, well, something terrible happens to them. I'll let your imagination fill in the rest of it. But in the animal kingdom, standing out is not a very good thing. Our system kind of rewards it. But we still have lines. We're far away from that lifestyle, but there's still lines. Some of the lines come from within us that scare us from keeping to stand out. Some lines are external. They could be other people, they could be fears of failure, they could be limitations that people have. But those lines still exist that keep us from standing out. And the system that we have right now really does reward it. Things like No Child Left Behind aren't everyone's favorite thing, and they kind of make the emphasis on being average. But do we want our kids to be good at fitting in? When we buy products, we pick the products that stick out to us. When we hire people, we hire the people who are most remarkable. We take the blue person over the gray person any day of the week. One of my students was shocked as she's really successful at school. She spent 12 years fitting in, she gets great grades, and her college applications ask her things like, how are you different from everyone else? Why do you deserve this scholarship? And she has no idea what to tell them. It's no secret right now that we live in a world where leadership is worth more than compliance. Where the class of 2025 has to be a leader. Each person has to be able to lead. And that's hard. We got a group of teachers together. A lot of them are your presenters today, as well as first and second year teachers, and that's the main thing we talked about. What do we need to do to educate the class of 2025 and the seniors that we have in the class of 2012? Some of the things they said, well, first of all, one of the best things about this is that the biggest words, the words used most often, are students and kids. And the second biggest are thinking and create. We've got to make sure our kids are thinking differently and doing creative and creating things in our classroom all the time. And all of this stuff is scary. This is the word that got brought up more than any other word on that Wordle. I had to take it out. Scary and uncomfortable, and I believe it. It is scary. And it's going to be scary for the kids who are comfortable with this. It's scary for us because we're very comfortable sometimes. And it is going to be a scary thing. The good news is that I really believe this. One thing Ken Robinson can't do that I can is I can say we and mean it. And I know we have everything we need right now to meet the needs of all these 21st century learners in the class of 2025. What's great about Buffalo-Hanover-Montrose schools, what I've learned from working with all of you, is the opposite of fear is love, and you guys love what you do. And you guys care about your students. And it's really phenomenal. It's different than other districts that I get to talk with. You guys care. People will do things they're scared of if they feel loved. If they feel like they're cared about, they're going to take those risks. If your classroom is a place of caring, they're going to take risks that they wouldn't take otherwise. And this place is great at it. If our staff meetings are places of caring, we're going to take more risks as teachers. And if your brain immediately goes to how instead of no, you're thinking like a 21st century learner. Because those challenges are the things that will define us. Challenges drive 21st century learning, not challenges that come from textbooks, but challenges that come from the environment. So if you're thinking about how can we get better at getting kids access to computers, how can I use these tools to the best of my ability in my classroom, you're thinking like a 21st century learner right now, and you're in the right place to be. We don't need to know how to do everything. Our kids teach us the things that we need to know how to do. I don't need to know how to do everything with Tumblr or what is Picnic that one of my students gave a session for. I don't know how to do anything with Picnic. One of my students was given that presentation. She gave that because she uses it. She could teach me how to use it. We need to learn how to be excited to share. Never seen a staff meeting look like this? to have that urge, like that kid's feeling right now that you haven't felt in so long, to get your hand up there because you have to share something. And not only to be so excited about sharing, but to put yourself out there, even if your work might be wrong. This is not a lie. We have time. We have time. And we're never going to have enough time, ever. You guys know that, because you'll say things like, if I waited until I had enough time to have a kid, I've never had a kid. If I waited until I had enough time to get married, to do this hobby, to do this, I never would have started. But sometimes we let time be our main excuse to stop as a teacher. The only real way to fail right now is to go back to your classroom on Monday and do nothing. Because when we have everything we need, there's an expectation to act. And by not acting, we're failing. This is an easy thing for me to tell my students. Give yourself permission to challenge assumptions, to look at the world with fresh eyes, to experiment, to fail, to plot your own course, and to test the limits of your abilities. But you have to give yourself permission to do that, and you have to show your students that that's what you're doing too, because they're looking at you. Those kids getting off the bus I showed you earlier, remember, they think you know what you're doing. They trust you. If you're doing this, they're going to do it too, automatically and immediately, because they trust you, because you care about them. I want to encourage you guys to start something and do something different in your classroom, even if it's small, on Monday, because we have everything we need to be remarkable. Thank you.